Hey everyone, I'm Kenny Moran and I'm an engineer in LA. I'm going to show you some cool presets I've come up with for the VSS3 Reverb from TC Electronics. This first one I did is called Vocal Thickness, and it's something I use to just give a little bit of girth to a vocal. It could be lead, it could be backgrounds. In this case, I'm going to show you what I'm doing with Philip Bailey's vocal from Earth, Wind & Fire. So I'm going to play the vocal dry and then I'll bring the reverb in.
Ballad, oh yeah.
Let's put the music.
When I see your face like the morning sun, you spark me to shine.
So I use it like this.
Get out the way, my need is to feel that.
I'm just giving him a little bit more, a little bit of width perhaps, but also a little bit more girth. It's not really meant to be a reverb per se. And that's called vocal thickness. I use it on leads and I use it a lot on backgrounds when we just want to fill them up a little bit. So that's the first preset. The next one I'm going to take a look at is I'm going to go to the top here. I'm going to grab the snare track and I'm going to take this, this snare and I'm going to give it some space. And I call this mono mic. Let me just call VSS up here. I'm going to grab one. I'm going to grab one of these. I'm just going to make it a mono to stereo. And I'm going to go under, right now, my presets and call this mono mic up. And what I'm going to do with the mono mic is I'm going to bring the reverb level all the way down. Same thing. So you can just hear the snare for a second in solo, and then I'll bring it in. So you'll see what I'm trying to create here is sometimes you may have an overdub or something that wasn't in the same room as the drum kit. So I want to create like a mono mic room sound that I like to use on drums just to add it in. And I play with the mix of it. How does it sit? But here's the way it sounds. And I'm going to bring in some of the reverb. And I'm going to bring in some of the early reflections. And let's put it in the kit. You can hear it. Now without. So I'm trying to give the snare drum, because it was brought in after, I mean it was an overdub on this particular section. I wanted to give it some kind of a mono mic feel. Now, I've selected mono to stereo for the purposes right now, but typically I would just put it on an insert as a mono or on a aux return as a mono aux return. And I'd find that blend to give that, whatever the particular instrument is you want to work with, to give it some of that room space to put it back in a place where you want it. The wonderful thing about the VSS3 is that I can sit here and I can play really quickly with just the reverb level and the early reflection level and the dry level. So I can really, I did a lot of other parameters in here to get the tone I wanted, but now I can get the real blend I want between the three things, which with reverb is a big deal, because if certain reverbs I want no early reflections. Because that's not what I'm trying to do with it. And then other times, I really do want that, because the drum kit has some early reflections within itself, between the mics, picking up other things. So it's an amazing, amazing reverb that you can do with that. So here, I'm going to show you another reverb setting that I came up with, and I call it instrument space. A lot of recordings, especially if I'm using live stuff, really are mono. I could give you a whole idea, my concept on how sounds are mono and we morph them into what we perceive as stereo. But a lot of times the recordings like this original recording, the Rhodes is a mono track, right? It was one input. So I want to give it some, as I said, instrument space. And it's not so much about saying, hey, I want it to take over. I just wanted to give it something to separate it from everybody else and feel like I'm right beside the Rhodes. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'll let you hear the Rhodes Solo, and then I'll pop this reverb in, and then you can take a listen to it, and then I'll put the I'll take the solo off so you can hear the whole mix. it in. Let's hear it in the mix. So you can hear within the mix, it's not taking away or too much space. Now, again, I've worked through all the various parameters inside here, the various, the reverb part, the modulation sections, the early sections, but you still can quickly just go, okay, I want a little less of that. Okay, well, if the reverb's at 11 and the early reflection's at 5, then I'm going to say, let's turn that off a second. I'm going to come down here and say, let's bring that down 3 dB, or how many did I just go to? There, 14, and then I'll bring the early reflections down to 8. So that was 3 dB each, and so now you can really tailor the preset again and just do the blend, as I said, between the three things. The most important three things in your reverb are the dry signal, the wet reverb signal, and the early reflection signal. So you always have that with this plugin right in front of you. Again, love TC stuff. Hope you like all the presets. I'm Kenny Moran. Take care.
Yeah, that balance. Oh, yeah.